Welcome to the One Priority Podcast, where our goal is to help start and strengthen churches to serve as vital and vibrant missional communities. The One Priority Podcast is sponsored and supported by the Columbia Metro Baptist Association and the almost 100 family churches that support the ministry of the CMBA. This week, I, Chris Reinolds, and George Bullard, Executive Director of the CMBA, sit down with Sam Smithson, Alice Drive Baptist Church's Bishopville campus minister, and Travis Pruden, Discipleship Pastor, to discuss how the bold steps that they're taking to reach the community with the love of Christ is impacting their church in a mighty way. We hope that you'll walk away from our conversation with them with a similar boldness to start a conversation with someone that can change their life.
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to be here today with Sam Smithson from Alice Drive Baptist Church, and he is the campus minister in Bishopville for the new campus that they've launched, and that's what we're here to talk about today. But he also has with him Travis Pruden, who is the Discipleship Pastor at Alice Drive Baptist Church. Alice Drive Baptist Church is a church network connection with the Columbia Metro Baptist Association. It is a full member of the Santee Baptist Association, but connects with us for missional concerns. So we're very interested in what they're doing in terms of campuses they're starting, and particularly we wanted to talk today about the launching of the Bishopville campus. So, Travis, Alice Drive is doing some great things in Sumter. Now, while the pandemic seems to have slowed down for others, you all are continuing to try to grow. So it seems like you guys are up to something there. So tell us about the campuses that you currently have, and then how the desire came to start a campus in Bishopville.
Sure. So glad to be here with you guys today. So first of all, Loren Mill was our initial or original campus that's been in existence since 1956. And so about probably, I would say 9 or 10 years ago, we kind of started the conversation about going multi-site, if that was something we felt like God was calling us to do. And overwhelmingly, we did kind of sense that at that time. And things kind of built and changed since then. And then in 2017, we launched our second campus, which was our Pacala campus, which is also here in Sumter. It's about 10 miles away from our original campus at Loren Mill. And then pretty soon after that, we started trying to discern where God was calling us next in this whole multi-site venture. So one of the things that I would say that really helps guide us is our mission statement that we feel like God has really called our church to be on, which is to help as many people as possible take their next step towards Jesus Christ. And so in that, of as many people as possible, we think about, well, where are those people located? Certainly there's still people here in Sumter that we know that need to be reached, that we're probably capable of reaching. But we also wanted to consider other places where we didn't feel like there was a healthy, vibrant church currently in existence. So that is part of what led us to Bishopville as a possibility for our next campus venture. Then in 2017, we started engaging a life group there, and which over time brings us to where we are today. Or actually, sorry, it was 2018 we started in Bishopville with a life group.
So as long as 3 years ago, you started cultivating the field, and were those primarily with people who were members of Alice Drive that lived in the direction of Bishopville?
So it was not. I was not involved with Bishopville when it started, so I'm still not completely clear on exactly how it started. But I know that there was a little bit of crossover. There were some folks that were already attending Alice Drive that had family and friends in the Bishopville area. We had some folks that had been here in the past that traveled here from Bishopville, and some currently that were still doing that as well. So we kind of mixed all those groups together and kind of discovered what the interest level might be for going into that community as Alice Drive.
Gotcha. Good.
That's great. Now, you mentioned your other campuses, but you didn't speak too heavily on the online campus. I know that y'all have a significantly growing online campus as well. They'll put a lot of emphasis into that. And I'm trying to remember, I visited with y'all one Sunday, and y'all are in a number of different countries as well, aren't you?
We are. So I didn't mention the online campus because that doesn't fall as much under me. We're still figuring out exactly where that fits. Right now that fits under our creative department because it's so closely associated with the production on Sundays. But then of course the campus part functions in a lot of ways that kind of cross over into some of the areas that I help oversee, as far as following up with those folks and helping people to take their next steps and grow as disciples of Christ.
Great.
But yeah, it's been pretty successful. We were one of those churches that was blessed enough to already be doing a lot of stuff online prior to COVID. And so when COVID hit, the shifts were actually pretty minor for us in order to kind of step up our game in that arena.
Well, for people my age, it's just amazing to think that there's an online campus minister named Casey Jones. I just think about railroads all the time when I begin to think about that. But seeing her in action, I've really seen some very creative and positive things happening there.
Yeah, that's great. Now, Sam, this past Sunday, I believe it was, you guys kicked off this Bishopville campus in an official capacity. What drew y'all? I talked a little bit about small groups and that sort of thing, but what drew you specifically to plant and be a part of this campus here in Bishopville? But also, how are you uniquely ministering and reaching that community?
Well, I'm blessed to be on here as well. Just blessed to even be here. I have a lot of not professional ministry experience, but I have a lot of volunteer ministry experience. And I was actually an insurance agent before I got here. So I have a lot of business world experience and things like that. But what kind of led me to this opportunity was I've always had a passion for church planning. When I was in seminary, I had a professor that started speaking about it. And I was just like, wow, well, I love to, I just feel like the Lord's given me a gift to share the gospel. I love doing that. And it's just kind of been bred around me, people that have shared the gospel. I got saved through a Christian basketball ministry, lied about my faith to play on the basketball team. And Jesus ended up saving me through it by his love, his grace, and his mercy. And those guys literally shared the gospel everywhere they went. So it was just really special to be a part of. And I just always wanted to figure out kind of what that looked like for me and where the Lord might be calling me. And I did a lot of things in the business world and things like that. And one of my mentors, Matt Kendrick, he was at Biltmore Church, and he's now planted a church in Fort Worth, Texas. He looked at me one day and said, well, I think you should quit your job and move to the Raleigh-Durham area and go to seminary. And I thought he was crazy. And then the next thing I know, I do it, and 2 weeks before I leave, I meet my now wife. So was willing to stick it out with me and everything like that. So we've just seen where God's led and so many opportunities. Providence Baptist Church out of Raleigh, there's a pastor named David Horner there. And just talking about ascending church and Biltmore Church being ascending church. I saw at Providence, I saw them send 2 pastors from their church to go plant other churches. Yeah. One in London and one in Portland, Oregon. And then what really sparked my heart was going to Toronto and being a part of a church plant that they were supporting in Toronto. And the college pastor just looks at me. He's like, Sam, I think God's going to just show you a lot of stuff on this trip. And I'm like, well, I'm excited. And next thing you know, it's just like, okay, a few more years later. And I never thought, I don't know any opportunity like this in the country for what I get to do. Yeah. I have friends in ministry all over the country. There's usually a lot of things people have to go through to get to this point. And they were willing to give me an opportunity. And, I just trust where the Lord takes me. Not always easy, but trust in him. So.
Now, you keep saying, this person looked at you, this person looked at you, but if I'm not mistaken, you're like 6'8". So
I am.
But that actually ties into how you're starting to uniquely minister in the community of Bishopville. What are some of the things that you're doing?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I apologize for not answering that question. I get a little excited. So one of the reasons when I came down here, it's just like, you see how the gospel, whether it's poverty or riches, whether it's black or white, whether it's anything, whatever sin, whatever struggle it is, the gospel addresses it all. And when I got down here, all the things I talked about, I was there in Bishopville one day. I was just walking downtown and through the businesses, and most people are believers and they've got a local church right there. I was like, well, these aren't exactly the people we're trying to reach. I go home, I'm laying in bed at night, and God goes, Sam, didn't you say you were going to get a basketball? And so I got a basketball and started playing in some of the inner city parks. So there's a place called Harlem Park and a place called Dennis Park, and just kind of kept relationships with probably 2 or 3 guys. Asked them if I could start doing devotional, started sharing the gospel with them and meeting them where they were at. And it was just really special. We have a good relationship with the county. They let us start renting what's old Bishopville High School. And we've had up to 18 come out in the community, and guys sharing the gospel and sharing their stories and just being able to connect with this community. It's lacking for fathers and mentorship and good godly role models. So we're just hoping to just kind of just be a little bit of bridge in that and raise these guys up in Christ so they can reach others with the gospel.
Great. Well, Sam, it wasn't just picking up a basketball. You've got a basketball background. Yeah, share that with us just briefly. When you think about using who you are and what your skills are in ministry.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Yes, I played basketball at Western Carolina University. I wasn't the best player. I was a workhorse, a little bit less athletic, but I just always worked hard. Just kind of that mindset of always working hard and always, giving it your all. Just the same thing goes for, as we follow Jesus. So when I got saved, my mindset shifted, obviously, through the Christian basketball ministry. Height has an advantage. Just realizing the opportunity that I have to play Division I sports. And then just even talking with people in the area, there was this is just a unique way that it happens. You don't realize how blessed you are to have that opportunity. I told a guy who plays for a semi-professional team here in Sumter, there was a basketball tournament, and he introduced me like to 5 or 6 of his buddies and was like, this guy played Division I. And I was just like, and then next thing you know, I'm able to share the gospel with 5 or 6 guys just through that interaction, which was just really cool just to see how God uses all for anybody's gifts. So,
well, and when you think about it,
sure.
When you think about it too, your insurance background, I one time early in my ministry, when I was a pastor, had an associate pastor who had been an insurance salesman, had his own agency. But he was a devoted Christian, and often he would talk to the people he was selling insurance to about Jesus. And one day he decided he had to sell one or the other. Either had to sell insurance or had to sell Jesus. But he learned so much about talking about Jesus by talking about insurance.
Yes, sir.
In terms of what happened. So, but what are some other preliminary things that you did before you launched this past Sunday to develop a core group that could be a part of the launch of this service?
Yes, sir. Well, I think something I've just realized, and Travis and I, we've talked about it back and forth, is, sometimes for people at the worship service, they might not be as engaged in the community. But if you have people that are willing to come to a group, they're more likely to be engaged. I feel like So I feel like it's already in the DNA for what they're doing. As far as just, we talk about next steps towards Jesus and taking that next step of community, versus in a worship service where you can kind of come and go and different things like that, where we already have the one-on-one relationship. I just feel like it's been really good for having that core group to just be willing to serve because they're already willing to step out. I think having groups in public places is a huge thing as well. Everything we do is out in public. So a diner, a special needs facility, someone's house, just kind of keeping it open to make sure that, we're here if needs need, if opportunities to share the gospel or just, you got city officials sitting around us all the time and things like that and just trying to be a light. So.
That's great. That's great. I love the idea of being in groups. It's like this, you've got this gravitational pull when Jesus is at the center, especially in a community standpoint, and people can't help but be drawn to that because they see there's something different going on there. So that's wonderful. Now, Travis, as the discipleship pastor, how is Alice Drive really scaling to handle from a discipleship standpoint, from a program standpoint? How are you guys scaling to handle these increased campuses and outreach and development of these people that are coming and participating in things?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, some of that is we're really kind of figuring out as we go. One of the things that works well for us is I feel like one of the things that God's gifted me with is the ability to kind of look at systems and processes and make those stronger and better. And so that's one of the things that we have working our advantage is we have a lot of good systems in place for how we kind of help members of our church family take their next steps right now. So really trying to replicate that at the other campuses in a lot of ways, obviously with some little shifts here and there, depending on the community context each campus is in. But one of the good things about systems is generally you don't need a whole lot of shifting in those. If a system works here, it should, 99% of it's going to work. It's going to be transferable to another location. So I think that's a big piece of it. Now, from the personnel side, to support those systems, and then throw in the budget piece. The church just voted to go forward with building a church home for our Pacala campus. And so, kind of all those considerations come into play. So we're stretching people and asking them to step in. Hey, do you have capacity to pick up some of these pieces? So like Sam actually, in addition to launching the campus this past Sunday, is also moving into an office space in Bishopville this week. And so, so there's a lot going on. We feel like that's going to be a big plus as far as visibility in the community. It's right there on Main Street, Bishopville. So people will be able to see Alice Drive has a presence in Bishopville. They're here. They're serious about being here and about serving our community. And so that's, all those pieces right now is just going to be Sam in the office. But down the road, hopefully, as things grow and develop in Bishopville and beyond, they'll have, maybe a volunteer staff person to come in at some point, and then maybe that will translate into a paid staff position, like for administrative help and that sort of thing. So we do have a worship leader that's come in that started with us this past Sunday. And we're paying her a stipend just to come and to help build a worship team from the ground up for however many weeks or months that may take, and then allow them to carry forward from there.
Yeah. Well, Sam, I covet the kind of relationship that you have, because one of the things that happens, you're talking about developing what we call a new congregational expression. But one of the ways that they're developed is sometimes they're freestanding new churches, but in this case, it's a campus. So because you're a campus of Alice Drive, there are significant support services that you're receiving from Alice Drive in order to make that happen. So you're the one engaging the people in terms of their spiritual life and the relationship. What are some of the ways that Alice Drive is really supporting the launch of this new congregational expression?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. I think first off, them willing to, God's grace and giving me an opportunity to be here, for them having the prayer, the need, the vision to reach the Bishopville area. I honestly think it starts top down. The support's been unbelievable. Travis, has coached me through so many situations and new conversations, especially being in a new pastoral role. So he's been fantastic. We have one-on-one check-ins every week, every other week, to be accountable, so that support. So to be able to navigate new conversations, being in, the campus pastor in that role, just you're navigating a lot of new waters, conversations you've never had to have before, hard conversations you have to have, being like Jesus, like they say in John 1, being both, full of grace and truth. Obviously we fall short of that, but by his grace and mercy, he continues to transform us. Communications has been amazing. Just so much support, from the campus. The thing I'm super encouraged with is that it is a multi-site church that's willing to step out and do a campus and start it from within and kind of build it out, because kind of like they've learned and just different things like that. One of the most difficult things in the Bishopville community is trust. So building from within and working itself out. I hope it's a model for multi-site campuses everywhere else to be able to reach people with the gospel.
And of course, you have the whole idea of the fact that you don't have to prepare a weekly sermon, because you've got Clay Smith, the pastor of Alice Drive, providing those for you. So that's good when you see the big Clay on the big screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are there any special stories of people that you feel free that you could share that whose lives have already been impacted by what you've developed there at the campus?
Oh man, I just think we're just so blessed overall. Travis he's like, I've heard these before.
And I'm gonna sit
so
back,
good.
because Sam could just go on and on with these stories. It's amazing.
No, since I've spoken with you, George, my wife and I moved here 8 months ago, 2 days ago. Or it would have been 8 months, 2 days ago. I was meeting with, so just to kind of know the context of Bishopville, a lot of racism. In its top 3 poorest counties in the state, median income, there's $26,800 within 5 square miles. It's just a tough area overall. Just a lot going on. Not a lot of resources. But with that being said, is I started meeting with one of the guys who came. We had an Easter service just to kind of just see where things would be as far as, is this the time to launch, or is this the time to kind of pull back? And we felt like it was best to go back to groups. So I was meeting with a farmer that I'd met at the service. Him and his wife had attended. So while I was meeting with the farmer, an African-American guy came in, and I was able to just kind of walk over and I just strike up a conversation. And I think this is an encouragement to anybody, just to start conversations and have boldness. It's not me. It's exercising this gift through faith. It's not me at all. But just, hey, you play any ball? Because he's about 6'2", like, oh man, I used to, and just kind of goes from there. And I just say, hey man, like, are you a follower of Jesus? And I think he told me that he was, and we just kind of kept the conversation going from there a little bit. But he was on the phone with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend just stopped and just said, I think you need to keep talking with this guy. So what's really cool is we started our life group from that. The guy I'm sitting with the farmer and his dad. So they're all in the farming business. And then the African-American guy, we started a life group from those guys. So, and now those guys are like almost best of friends. So what's really cool is the farmer brought the African-American guy to the church or to the Loring Mill campus. And African-American guy, he stuck around all the way until almost 1 o'clock helping us with the campus, putting things together and tearing it down. So that's just one. If you want me to share another, I can, or if you want me to pause here, I can.
Let's hear one more. That would be great.
Okay. So basketball, obviously, we've had opportunities to share the gospel. I'll be brief with this one, then I'll get to another one. I will be brief. So, but the first time I walked on the court, I met a guy, and he didn't bring his basketball. So he was like, oh man, I thought I had to go home. Well, I brought a ball. It was my first time being out there in Bishopville. And I started sharing the gospel with him, and he just started weeping on the court. So that was really special, and we've kept that relationship up. My other time is there's a food ministry we also serve with. So, we're mainly a, Caucasian congregation, and we go and serve with an African-American church that does a food ministry there because we just want to partner and help, build with what's already going on, what God's doing and how we can partner. But there was a man there named Greg who came to serve from one of the life groups here in Loring Mill. Well, we went out to eat after. I got to hear his story, and we're about to leave, and a guy walks in, and I hear Greg praying with him. And I hear Greg say, no more pain, no more sorrow. And I'm like, okay. Like, I asked Greg, hey, kind of what's going on? Because I didn't really I said hello to the guy. And he told me they were getting ready to take his aunt off of life support. So the crazy thing is his dad is in the truck while this is going on. So the young man's inside, and we have the blessing to the church to be able to bless people for their meals and things like that. So I walked up to him and, and just, hey man, I'm so sorry for everything. I'd love to buy your meal today. And I just said, man, are you a follower of Jesus? And he said, no. He says, but I need to be. Wow. And I said, you can do that right now. And he said, oh yeah. And, made sure he just shared the gospel with them, and he understood it. He received Christ right then and there. Right. So then we were able to walk back outside and tell his dad that he had received Christ. So his aunt from death to life from one day, and his son from the true death to life, from going from death to life to knowing Jesus Christ. It was just really special opportunity.
Super. Yeah.
So
good.
That's great. Now, those are wonderful, and I can't wait to hear more of those stories in the future as you continue serving in this capacity. Before we go, Travis, you need to share the word with Clay that Sam is ready to be a pastor, because he said one more story, and he gave us two.
That's right. Hey, did you guys notice that as Sam told the stories, he got closer and closer to the computer screen?
Yeah, I think that's great. Yeah.
I mean, I think that really tells the story of Sam and his heart for sharing the gospel. That is who God made him to be, is that guy. And I've never seen anybody in my life that can quicker turn a corner in a conversation to ask that question, are you a follower of Jesus? I'm going to talk like 2-3 sentences into meeting someone.
Wow.
He's already there, and he's passionate about it. And hopefully you guys felt that passion as he leaned in. I thought his head was going to hit the computer screen.
everything that you guys are doing there in Bishopville, and also Alice Drive is just doing in general. And so thank y'all so much for being with us and for your faithfulness to Jesus's work.
Thank you both for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining with us. And please be sure to check out the show notes for more detailed information about today's show. Also, if you found this podcast helpful for you and your ministry, share it with others so we can get the word out about what God is doing. Until next time, from all of us, we thank you for listening and urge you to share this podcast with everyone you know. It's the good news about the good news in the Columbia Metro Baptist Association.